All right, we are connected for the morning edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, looking forward to connecting, sharing my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter. And it looks like gold is continuing to get a lot of attention, but then again, not from the Western Hemisphere. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. And lots of interesting headlines going on right now. It looks like Argentina is doing its typical every 5 to 10 year cycle of needing a monetary infusion of capital. And it looks like the U.S. is going to save the day with a bailout. The fact that the United States of America, that's not in the best condition itself, is going to bail out another nation, lets you know what time it is. And things are, the clock is ticking very fast, and gold is telling us something that is worth paying attention to. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. And so for those who are plugged in, definitely let me know where you're watching from. Feel free to hit that like button, the check mark, to subscribe wherever you're watching from so you stay plugged in. When I put out a news cap where I just try to filter through the headline, try to make sense of all the noise, give you some good news, market activity, and give you some little noise on top. But other than that, it's going to be a good stream. So looking forward to connecting. And so literally right now, just thinking about how to just continue to remind and encourage people of the importance of monetary literacy. And a particular angle that people are not considering or have not considered is the fact that gold and silver, constitutionally speaking, has been money well before our nation started. And of course, it was the founding structure of our monetary system when the United States of America came into existence. And we've gone so far from that where people don't realize the journey that it's taken. And the fact that literally over 100 years ago, or approximately 100 years ago, gold was confiscated from the American people during a crisis. And then it was made illegal to hold gold outside of some collector's coins and jewelry and things like that. But so it was confiscated, then it became illegal. Here we are now, fast forward 100 years later, gold has surpassed numbers that I'm sure our forefathers could have never imagined, and people still don't realize the importance of getting physical gold. Any size, any weight, just as a protection method against all this stuff that we're witnessing now and what is yet to come. Just think about that for a minute. Okay, so I don't want to harp that, but I'm going to make another video talking about the importance of looking at it from a historical standpoint. Don't get distracted by digital distractions. Keep that in mind. Okay. All right, so as always, let's get into some good news, market activity, headlines, because right now we're in very interesting times, and it's good to be a free thinker, someone who thinks outside the box, don't believe what I'm told, but like to verify it for myself as best I can. Hopefully you are the same. Okay. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into it. All right, so today's good news is designed to charge you up spiritually, get you started on your day, and hopefully resonate with inside your spirit, man, and encourage you to go out and to preach the good news, which is Yeshua is coming, and his kingdom is now because the Holy Spirit is inside of you. It says, when impossible meets the king. It says, what if I told you the word impossible doesn't exist in the kingdom of God? In the book of Jeremiah, God asks a question, quote, is anything too hard for me? Jeremiah 32:27. Israel was facing captivity. The city looked doomed, but God was reminding his people that his power is not bound by circumstances. So fast forward to the gospel. Jesus echoes the same truth. When the disciples were troubled about salvation, he said, with men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. That's the kingdom reality, people. Impossibility belongs to man, but possibility belongs to God. What looks finished to you is just the beginning with him. So when you pray, don't measure God by your situation. Measure your situation by your God. Because in the kingdom, nothing is too difficult for the king. Let me repeat that. In the kingdom, nothing is too difficult for the king. Closing prayers. Father, I thank you that nothing is too difficult for you, and I trust your power to make the impossible possible in my life. In Yeshua's mighty name, amen. That resonated with me well this morning. I'm glad to be able to share with you guys. Hopefully it resonated with you and got your spirit man churning, and just inspires you to go out to be a blessing, to share the good news, to do as you were commissioned as disciples, to help make disciples of other nations. All right. Let's get into it. I want to jump right into this metals activity because day by day, moment by moment, gold and silver is telling us what's happening in the world, while the Western Hemisphere is lagging behind. And today, everyone's excited about it, some type of announcement Donald Trump's going to make. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's around rushing forward the whole digital transition of regulatory clarity when it comes to crypto, because the U.S. is lagging behind. When you got gold causing all this ruckus from the Eastern Hemisphere, with China announcing that they're trying to bring in more nations' golds to really set the standard again, the U.S. needs some noise. And so Donald Trump will meet the call. He's going to come out more than likely talking about cryptos and Bitcoin, and because right now the Bitcoin narrative is not really getting all that much traction. And so it just goes to show the U.S. needs Bitcoin just as much as Bitcoiners need the U.S. Because, mind you, there can be no reset unless people buy into this digital transition. And right now, gold stands to steal a lot of thunder, because I'm going to yell louder than ever to remind people of monetary history. So, yeah, anyway, and I was thinking about this. It will be my desire that the Western Hemisphere fails in everything that it's attempting to do to distract the masses through propaganda, as well as a controlled demolition of our monetary system. And it has everything to do with distributed ledger technology. And so gold and silver can capture the masses' attention, all 300 plus million Americans right now, where everyone feels compelled to do something with dying fiat and go out and get something physical. Go out and grab anything that's gold and silver related to really stir up the narrative. It'd be very hard for the technocratic takeover to really come to fruition. Won't stop it, but it'll slow it down. And that's the best we can ask for, is for all this great reset to slow down. We can't stop it. Neither should we want to stop it, because we got to get the certain points to get to the desired outcome. But I wouldn't mind slowing it down if I could. So let's pray that God is able to slow some things down on our behalf, so more people can hear the good news, as well as more people can wake up to the devil's deceptions. Okay, that's just something that's been in my heart for a little bit. Okay. So right now, look at this, $44.40. And when the markets open up in the Eastern Hemisphere and they have not slammed it down yet, that's something that, whoa, okay. Is it when it comes to the paper game, is it a little harder, or they're not wanting to, or they too far behind the 8 ball to really slam it down because they've been positioned in a way where they're going to take some losses if they slam it? We got to wait and see, but this is what's happening. And just something we're paying attention to. Okay, so let's get into some headlines. I don't want to waste any time. Okay, so I want to share something from Mr. Peter Schiff. Let's jump right into it. So here we have Peter Schiff this morning. And, of course, Peter is going to be proven right at some point in reference to the nature of our monetary system and how the government is bound to fail the way they always have, because mankind's greatest problem is governance and poor governance. But this is Mr. Peter Schiff. Let me go back here. Give me a second. Forgive me. It says gold rose $40 this morning, hitting a new record high above $37.85. Silver jumped 25 cents to $44.25. Yet, in an hour on CNBC, gold hasn't been mentioned once. It's the biggest financial story of 2025, yet the leading financial network's top story is Jimmy Kimmel. So once again, this is just more of a realization that mainstream media, their job is to distract and dumb down the masses. Because once again, I was thinking about, just as I started off talking about the nature of gold over the last 100 years in our country, how this is a monumental moment, and majority of Americans are unaware of how serious it is. And it's events like this that distract the masses. So we got a couple follow-up thoughts. Frank Gooster says, it doesn't fit their narrative, and the losers are the American retail public. And then Mario said, that is good, though, as it means the bull market in gold and silver is still in the early stages. And yeah. And then we got DDXG says, gold miners are up 119% this year, but look, Magnificent Seven. And so just look at the reality here. The Magnificent Seven is what the mainstream media focus on, while gold miners are up big time. Just something to realize, people. Deception is real. Deception is real. Okay, let's keep it moving. So here is some thoughts about what is happening. So we got Luke Groman. It says, China, the U.S. weaponized the USD while sending us 1.2 trillion per year in USD trade surpluses. We'll weaponize gold and let's see who runs out first. And so this is in response to this article here. China courts foreign gold reserves to boost the global clout. And this is going to be a very interesting development, to the point where we don't really realize how it's going to impact us with our currency, A, and B, with our way of life here. Because the U.S. will literally, their primary focus now is to save the debt market. And it has everything to do with Argentina right now going through issues, and how the U.S. is trying to extend a lifeline to Argentina using our debt, which is not all that pristine at this moment, because gold is clearly where people are running to. So this is the story worth touching on. Okay, so let's get into it. Here we got China courts foreign gold reserves to boost clout. And so this is the article. Wasn't able to get the actual visuals and stuff like that, but you guys got it. So this came out today. And it says, I'll give you the summary of it. Takeaways by Bloomberg AI says, China aims to become the custodian of foreign sovereign gold reserves to strengthen its standing in global bullion market, according to people familiar with the matter. It says the PBOC is using the Shanghai Gold Exchange to court central banks in friendly countries to buy bullion and store it within the country's border. You have the friendly nations, those that are partnering with the BRICS nations as well as all the other Eastern entities. We got China now encouraging those nations that are friendly with us. Let's have a day of reckoning. We'll extend you the opportunity to buy gold and store it here as a way of reasserting trust and confidence in the monetary system. And the reason I believe this is important is because the reason China more than likely wants to accumulate gold for others is literally to mimic and act like the U.S. did 100 years ago-ish, when the gold reserve concept was formulated after the wars. The U.S. received all the gold from the world to help fund the wars. And then from that, the Bretton Woods moment came into existence, to where the U.S. was able to peg the dollar to gold, and every nation did business through the Federal Reserve note system with the promise of getting gold, until it was reneged upon in 1971. So that 40, 50-year window where gold was a staple point, the U.S. dollar was the focal point, that type of system all predicated on every nation's gold being in the U.S. So now, fast forward, China is offering an opportunity for nations to buy gold, park it here, and let's establish credibility within the financial system, because we have your gold, we'll have your gold, we got the biggest gold holdings, period. Now we can do business at a neutral level without any type of coercion or threats or foolishness like the Western has done. And so this will be the beginning phases of a new structured gold-backed system where trust is predicated on weight and purity. Keep that in mind. Okay. And the West don't want no part of this. The United States wants no part of this. That's why Bitcoin, blockchain, and all that other stuff, tokenization, is the Western's narrative. They want this new stuff because it is something that the U.S. can front run, and ultimately, because it's all computer code, there's nothing tangible there. There's no real accountability or responsibility, because once again, it's all computer code. And so if there's nothing backing this code of any kind, makes it easier for the U.S. to manipulate the system again. And that's where the Eastern Hemisphere, slow down, let's put your weight on the table. Put your weight on the table, because gold is right now. And according to the Western Hemisphere, all the maximalists, all the Bitcoiners, you look at X right now, look at the tone. People are like, oh, something's not right. All this accumulation, the price ain't pumping. The U.S. needs Bitcoin just as much as Bitcoiners need the USA, liquidity-wise. And so it's just interesting to see like that people can't step back, non-biased. Don't worry about your bags. Worry about your country. Worry about the narratives. Worry about the propaganda first. And then sit down and have an open discussion as to how deception can blind people's viewpoints on reality. And I'm not hating, because I hold Bitcoin, I hold gold. I know gold is a monetary constant, and I know Bitcoin is where the powers that be want to go. And so it's going to go, but people don't realize by the time it gets to the final destination of where Bitcoin and everything was meant to go, game, set, match, global reset accomplished, you'll own nothing to be happy. Because it's computer code. Like, literally, don't give up your right to own tangible assets in the real world. This is where God gave us dominion. He said it's good. Gold is good for a reason. And of course, gold shows up at the back of the book. It's something that people walk on in the streets in the kingdom. So it's like, it's of value regardless. Okay, but yeah, you get my drift. This stuff gets me amped up. Okay, so back to it says the move would enhance Beijing's role in the global financial system, furthering its goal of establishing a world that's less dependent on the dollar and Western centers. So bring your gold, put it on the table, let's check the purity, let's check the weight, and then we can have discussions. If you ain't bringing no gold, don't expect to sit at the table. Because you all know how it goes. Whoever owns the gold calls the shots. And so China's positioned themselves to own the most gold and help other nations accumulate gold as well so that they can all call shots outside of this. So think about this. As the world continues to move in the direction that China's sending them, what will that do to us here in the Western Hemisphere? It's going to make life very interesting because every one of these units will be accounted for in the fiat price of gold, especially, and of course silk. So here we are now. China will continue to press forward. Gold will continue to get attraction in the world, but not in the Western Hemisphere. And that's why I'm talking about I'm going to sound alarms louder than ever to help people realize the importance of having gold. Protect yourself against the central banks, your government, and your currency. Knocking out 3 birds with 1 stone. Okay, so to keep it moving. So here is the next story, and a story that's all encompassing. Because Argentina is looking for a lifeline, but in order to have qualified for this lifeline, unfortunately, they gave up something that could have helped reestablish trust within their economy, and it happens to be gold. There are no coincidences in the midst of a reset. Just remember that. Okay. So here's a story that was put out there, and this has a lot to do with events that happened yesterday. It says Argentina is sinking into a severe economic crisis. Trump offered Milei support from the U.S. Treasury. Argentina's stock collapsed 10% yesterday, with the Argentina peso down 99% in 10 years. And yesterday, the Donald Trump administration offered a lifeline to Argentina backed by U.S. Treasuries. So here we are in the Western Hemisphere. The U.S. needs supporters, backers of its debt because we're about to run so much debt that it's going to knock your socks off. And they need buyers. And so you take distressed countries such as Argentina and a couple more that's coming, and you get them on a debt system that helps fund the U.S. debt binge. And if you help us, we help you. We'll send you debt. You send us real world assets. We'll send you debt. And that'll help provide a lifeline. But once again, it doesn't solve any problems. And it's all Argentina's fault. But then again, every government is under the same window or umbrella of corruption and criminality because they all answer to the same monetary authorities. The World Bank and all the other Bank of International Settlements, those entities that are the gatekeepers to this monetary narrative that we're witnessing, they're all forcing nations to take on debt denominated in U.S. liabilities. So it's a no-win for all the citizens of Argentina if they rely upon a single person or the policies that have already destroyed their country to continue. So literally, if they don't protect themselves against their own elected officials, then, more power to you. Okay, but what am I talking about? Here we have U.S. stands ready to bail out Argentina, but it's not a sign of systemic regional problems. Okay, really? This is how this is how they want to sell it. It's just an isolated event within that country. Okay. I don't think it's going to affect the U.S. interest rates. One Forex trader said, the U.S. Treasury market said, U.S. Treasury Secretary Besant, a fourth from left, with Argentina President Javier Milei. This is from the picture that I couldn't get. And officials at a bilateral meeting in April says Treasury Scott yesterday. This is interesting. A whole thread from the Treasury Secretary about supporting Argentina. It says pledging support for Argentina on Monday is not a sign of broader economic instability in the Latin American area that might spill over to U.S. financial markets. So once again, when they tell you what it's not, that's when you want to begin questioning what it potentially could be. And so all it takes is one domino to fall, and then the second, and the third, the fourth, the fifth. Next thing you look up, you got a contagion event. Then it turns into a systemic event. And then, but once again, it's all about perception, making people remain calm and cool, collective. Don't look here, look there, while we try to put out this fire here as quick as we can. Okay, so that right there is a suspicion there. If it's not economic instability in Latin America, but it's just a one isolated event, okay. Every nation under the same policies, and then you don't think it's going to be a contagion. Okay, in a series of posts on social media X, Treasury Secretary said all options were on the table to help Argentina manage its ongoing currency crisis. Let's find out what this currency crisis looks like. So here we got the, let me get so you can see myself here. So let me see if I can zoom. Try to zoom. Okay, so here behind me, move myself over here. So here we have a glimpse at the U.S. Argentina crises. So over the last 2 years, the U.S. dollar has appreciated substantially, measured in Argentine pesos. The U.S. dollar is up 286% in 2 years. Therefore, the Argentine peso over the last 1 year is down 28.66% over the last 2 years. And right behind me, you probably can't see this cliff. Like literally, it dropped off the cliff right here as a result of the devaluation of the currency due to exterior pressures by other nations to say, hey, your currency is too strong, your debt is too much, you need to devalue the currency to make your currency cheaper so that you can try to save off using and not using your dollar reserves. Okay, so you go 5 years, it's down 94%. And then you go 10 years, 99. And this looks very similar to the US dollar 100-year chart. Because fiat currencies, debt-based instruments always do one thing: return to zero. Okay, so here we are now. Lifeline. And this is where things get interesting. It said the exact nature of the U.S. help would come after President Donald Trump meets with Javier Milei on Tuesday on the sidelines of the UN. So literally, Donald Trump, Milei gonna meet today. Okay, what can we do for you guys? So Donald Trump's gonna sit down like a boss and tell Milei what to do on how to not cause a revolution in this country by the U.S. literally saying, okay, here's the thing. You give us access to your markets. You allow our companies, all his economic advisors, those that are part of Trump's administration, those billionaire boys, you allow the billionaire boys to come into your country, buy some things, take over some things. We'll front you some U.S. debt, a.k.a. our currency, to help pay back the interest on the loans you already have, which should help stabilize your currency for a couple days. And if you don't take this offer, good luck. We'll let you escape your nation once the Civil War starts. We'll let you come to the U.S. and seek asylum here as the ex-president of Argentina. So this is the type of activity that can possibly go on, because Argentina is not in a position to actually solve their problems. They can only appease their debt masters. And so Mark Chandler, managing director of Bannockburn Global Forex, said he thought Argentina's crisis was relatively isolated to its domestic economy. It's not systemic. I don't think it's going to affect the U.S. interest rates, Chandler said in an interview. Okay, but once again, it's not going to affect U.S. interest rates, but yet U.S. interest rates are already being severely impacted by the free market not acknowledging and recognizing the recent Fed cut and the future cuts that are coming. So literally, borrowers will expect more interest to be earned on extending credit to the U.S. So interest rates will go up. And therefore, yield curve control will kick in. Then the real events, fireworks start, because the world realizes that, hey, they're cheating us now. They're rigging the markets even more. So it's going to be even a bigger dumpster fire sale of U.S. liabilities and a currency right along with it. And gold is going to even take bigger jumps, and silver is going to shoot up like never before. And by that time, if the U.S. haven't figured out this regulatory clarity for crypto, It's going to be mighty hard for Bitcoin to keep catching a bid because Bitcoin is dependent upon the government now. And so they better start opening up the monetary spigot, or the West is going to get behind the narrative of this reset, and Bitcoin is supposed to lead the way. So you better come on, better print, Fed. Donald Trump better handing out stimmy checks or something, or hand out Bitcoin to somebody. So this is the type of stuff that's happening, man. This is real. This is real in the field. Real in the field. Okay, so here's another headline here. And this is about Argentina. Milei's peso is 20% overvalued and fragile. So literally the peso, as I showed you, is damn near reaching zero status as far as confidence, because it's good to say Argentinian people, they're dumping it quicker now. And they're trying to get into dollars. But they're saying it's too strong. So you got to ask yourself, like, damn, like how bad do they want the currency to go? How low? It says here, one of the biggest problems Argentina President Milei has is he tries to stem a currency crisis is at the peso by nearly all accounts. He's trying to prop up their national currency as best they can. But it's hard to keep a strong currency or a currency of strength when you owe so much debt to foreign creditors. A part of the trade-off in borrowing is that you will literally weaken your currency, allowing the foreigners to buy your currency to buy up your real assets. And so literally through currency manipulation, the rich get richer and the users get poorer. That's the problem. So domestically, the holders, savers, investors, retirees of the peso solely, the majority of their population don't have access to dollars. So therefore, they're forced to use the currency. They're the ones that's being stolen from day by day. And then you have the creditor saying the currency isn't weak enough. A strong currency was always part of Milei's two-pronged plan, along with the fiscal austerity, to tame inflation and stabilize the economy. And while it's been effective in dragging inflation down over 200% a year to 33%, so think about this. Consumer prices were beyond 200% for life in Argentina. Now it's down to 33%. And that's considered a success, while all along austerity, meaning that the government subsidies taken away from the people that people lived upon, has vanished. Now desperation sets in because people never had before. The government became the lifeline. They've removed the lifeline from the people, and now the government is looking for a lifeline from another country. Yeah, there's no winners in this. It says, so inflation down from 200 to 33, its overvaluation analyst says has steadily swelled month after month, sparking jitters in a nation with a long history of devaluations and defaults. So literally, the currency failure is defaulting on the actual users, which are the people, but it's benefiting the capitalists, i.e. the debt lenders, substantially. And I can go on, but here it says IMF is asking for an annual current account surplus of $10 billion, which would only be reached with a peso between $1,650 to $1,700 per dollar. So they're saying lower your currency's value against the dollar by this much, and it'll help your current account balance because you owe us $10 billion. We'll deposit more funds, but you got to get your currency devaluation to a certain point so we can inject more debt into your economy so that you can take care of your interests. So the stipulations are already harsh. It's a lose for everybody. The country gets poor, the people get poor, the currency is destroyed. Revolt is ultimately going to be the end result. Because Milei, to me, is a presidential puppet. But then again, he was put into power under the guise of being a MAGA type person where he talked big, talked bad, talked about what he was going to do, but you can't do it if you're talking from the same level of thinking that created the same problems. Okay. And so to Argentina's problem, here is something that most people may not talk about. The mystery of Argentina's gold. Milei admits it was transferred abroad without specifying the quantities or destination. And so if gold is money, gold was a potential anchor of stability, which their country could have used to peg their peso back to gold in some capacity to shore up confidence. they decided to get rid of the gold. And it wasn't his fault. He was put there for that purpose, but the Argentinian people don't see it from that standpoint. He was put there to make right what was it called? Kushnerism. The previous administrations did wrong. But then again, he probably caused more damage because he sent the gold back to Europe. And now the gold is sitting in the vaults of probably China or the UK, or it's been given out as the gold owed to other nations that were demanding their gold back. So here it says, while the government acknowledges that gold reserve has been sent outside the country, there is no official information available regarding the purpose of the operation. The gold is now exposed to the risk of being seized due to long-standing claims against Argentina-made foreign creditors. So Argentina owes so much money. Their creditors demanded gold. They sent the gold out. Now they're stuck. Naturally wealthy, rich country, loaded with oil, loaded with resources, loaded with natural goods. They're going to end up selling it to the private capitalists of the Western Hemisphere in this Trump merger and this Trump deal, and they're going to be robbed. And this is what's happening country by country, nation by nation, and it's happening while the U.S. is still able to control the narrative, but that's changing because the nation that holds the most golds calls the shots. And as of now, the gold is flowing east, and China is setting up storage units for nations to bring your gold here. Once you verify, we can verify that the amount of gold you got here because we check the purity, we check the weight, and you'll have a seat at the table when it's time to discuss how we reboot the system. And the U.S. is not going to have any gold because we don't have gold. Fort Knox won't be audited. The MAGA crowd is not really up in concern with Fort Knox gold anymore because everyone's waiting on Bitcoin clarity. Anyway, this is what's happening. Thought I would share my perspective on it. Curious to hear your thoughts. As always, I want to leave you with all this information without recommending some strategies. So as always, for those who realize where gold is going, this is the opportunity, my good people. This is where you get gold and just sit back and let it do what it does, because Fiat will do what it was created to do, which is to rob you. So go to buygoldnotes.com, get yourself some gold, and you'll be better than the majority because they don't even know about it. And then also, I want to encourage you, if you have it, the most affordable gold happens to be in the form of mini gold bars. Go to minigoldbars.com, links in the description. And then last, if you want to get in the silver business and actually become a member of a community, here on the screen here, you can see people who are part of the silver, quick silver community, where you stack 1 ounce at a time, depending on where you're at. You could be a heavy investor, you can be a beginner. Either way, all it takes is 1 ounce at a time to put you in better position than majority of the people. And so if you're interested in joining the community, go to mysilverteam.com. Links in the description. We'll love to work with you. And hey, let's just continue to spread the good monetary news 1 ounce at a time, good people. Be blessed, be safe. Shalom.